She arrived in Rome on a Tuesday evening, the kind of evening that wasn't special for anyone but her. From the taxi window, the city drifted by in streaks of gold and shadow. Headlights, scooters, people crossing the street with gelato in their hands even after dark. Old buildings leaned toward the street as if listening, balconies crowded with plants, laundry, and lives. Rome, as always, didn't acknowledge her, and in a strange way, that comforted her. Sophia stepped out near the Tiber River, carrying only a small suitcase and a backpack. The taxi drove away, leaving behind the soft hum of water and the distant sound of plates and voices from restaurants finishing the late dinner rush. She wasn't a tourist. Not really. She was Roman dash. But after years of airports, hotel breakfasts, and apartments that never quite smelled like home, coming back felt almost like stepping into someone else's memory. She walked along the river for a few minutes, letting her breath match the rhythm of the water. The Tiber flowed slowly, thick and dark and warm-colored, reflecting the lamps as broken golden threads that trembled with every small wave. The air smelled of wet stone, basil, cigarette smoke, and something sweet she couldn't identify. From an open window somewhere above, a television broadcast a football match nobody seemed to be watching. The commentator's voice floated out in bursts, then got swallowed again by the city. Sophia smiled just a little. She had changed, but the city had not. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. A message, then another, then an email. She took it out, watched the screen light up, and for a moment, the glow of notifications lit her face more than the street lamps. She stared at it for 2 seconds, then pressed her thumb on the airplane mode icon. The signal bars disappeared. Tonight, she decided, she didn't want to be reachable by anyone except the city. She turned into a side street, rising gently away from the river. The cobblestones, polished by centuries of footsteps and 1,000 rainy days, shifted softly beneath her shoes. Laundry hung between windows, moving slowly with the evening breeze like tired flags. A woman watered plants on a balcony, the water falling in a thin silver line into a terracotta pot below. Somewhere close, a radio played an old Italian song, and someone sang along badly in the kitchen. Sophia took it all in, as if she had been away for years instead of months. She reached the small square where her rented apartment waited. A single fountain stood in the center, its water shimmering under a warm street lamp. A cat slept on the fountain's edge, opening one lazy eye as she passed, then deciding she wasn't interesting enough to fully wake up for. The buildings around the square were only 3 or 4 floors high, with green shutters and laundry lines. A few tables from a tiny wine bar were still outside, even though only one couple remained, talking quietly over half-finished glasses. Sophia found the door, climbed a narrow staircase that smelled of stone and old paint, and unlocked the apartment. Inside, she didn't turn on all the lights, only a small lamp near the bed and the one beside the balcony door. Rome didn't need anything bright. The city itself glowed enough through the curtains. She left the suitcase by the wall, dropped her backpack onto the chair, and walked straight to the balcony. It was tiny, barely big enough for her feet and a plant, but it opened onto the square like a secret box. Below, the couple outside the wine bar laughed at something only they knew. The cat changed position. The fountain kept flowing, as if nothing in the world could ever hurry it. Sophia leaned on the railing. It was late, but not too late. Rome never really sleeps. It just lowers its voice. For a moment she considered staying in, showering, lying down, pretending she liked the idea of resting. But her body felt wired, not tired. Her mind was full, not empty. She turned off the lamp, left only the soft light from outside filtering in, and went back down the stairs. This time, she carried nothing but her keys. The night air met her like a familiar hand on her shoulder. She didn't take out her phone. She didn't check the time. She simply walked, letting her feet decide what to remember and what to ignore. She passed a bakery closing for the night, the smell of fresh cornetti drifting out into the street like a soft promise for the morning. The baker rolled down the metal shutter halfway, then stopped to say something to a neighbor with a dog. Their conversation floated into the air and dissolved before reaching her. She passed a bookshop with its lights off, but its display still carefully arranged. Old covers, new covers, titles in Italian and English, stories that had never met her and maybe never would. She passed a small bar where three older men argued about politics with the passion of teenagers and the patience of those who have had the same discussion for 20 years. Every corner held a fragment of someone else's life. For once, she didn't feel the need to compare any of it to her own. Without really planning it, she found herself in one of her favorite places from years ago, a small courtyard hidden behind the archway of an old palazzo. The gate was half open, as if the city were inviting her in like an old friend. Inside, candles glowed on a few scattered tables. A small jazz trio played under the stone arch. Piano, double bass, and a saxophone weaving a slow melody through the warm air. The music was soft, loud enough to fill the space, gentle enough not to wake the windows above. Only a few people were there. Two students whispering over a shared glass of wine. A couple dancing in that way people dance when they think no one is really watching. And one man sitting alone at a small table, a notebook open in front of him, pen resting between his fingers. Sophia stood for a moment near the entrance, letting her eyes adjust, letting the music find its way into her chest. Then she moved toward the fountain at the center of the courtyard and sat on its wide stone edge. The water made a sound distinct from the jazz, a steady, circular whisper that grounded the whole scene. The man with the notebook looked up for a second, not in a searching way, more like someone who has been staring at the same sentence too long and is grateful for any interruption, even a quiet one. Their eyes met briefly. He gave the smallest of nods. She answered with the smallest of smiles. It was enough. The musicians shifted into a slower tune, the kind that belongs to old cities and warm nights. The saxophone became softer, the piano more spacious, leaving room between the notes for thoughts to move. Sophia closed her eyes, She remembered being 19, crossing Rome after midnight with friends, laughing too loudly, convinced that nothing truly important could ever be lost. She remembered being 28, running through Fiumicino Airport with a coffee in one hand and a laptop in the other, always late, always apologizing, always promising next month will be calmer. She remembered being 33, standing in a foreign apartment that smelled of someone else's cooking and someone else's city, realizing she had more photos in her phone of hotel rooms than of any place that felt like home. And now, here dash dash, she simply breathed. The night was not asking her to decide anything. Rome was not asking her to become anything. For once, nobody wanted anything from her. When she opened her eyes again, the man with the notebook had moved. He stood a few steps away, careful not to enter her space too quickly. "Is this seat taken?" he asked, gesturing to the stone edge of the fountain beside her. "No," she said softly. "Go ahead." He sat. Not too close, not too far, just within the shared circle of light and music. The fountain continued its slow rhythm. The jazz trio slipped into another song. "You look like someone who came back to remember something," he said, after a quiet moment. "Maybe," she answered, "or someone who came back to forget." He smiled. Not a confident, charming smile. A real one, a little tired at the edges. "I think Rome is good at both," he said. "Helping you remember and helping you forget. It just never tells you which one you're doing." She let out a small laugh. Something inside her loosened. "Do you live here?" she asked. "I did," he said. "Then I left. Then I came back. Tonight I'm not sure if I live here or if I'm visiting my own life." "That sounds familiar," she replied. They didn't talk much after that. Not because there was nothing to say, but because the silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. Rome often speaks for the people inside it. One by one, the other guests left. The students finished their wine. The couple stopped dancing and walked out hand in hand. The musicians quietly packed their instruments, their cases clicking shut with soft, final sounds. The candles on the tables burned lower, their flames small but stubborn. "I should go," Sophia said eventually. He nodded, closing his notebook. "Maybe I'll see you again," he said. "Rome is small," she answered, "but also very big." He seemed to understand. She stood up, gave him a small nod of goodbye, and walked back through the archway, leaving the sound of the courtyard behind her. The street outside felt slightly cooler, as if the air were reminding her that night was moving forward. She didn't check her phone. She didn't need the time. The city would tell her when it was late enough. She wandered through streets she almost recognized, where every corner felt like it was a few details away from a memory. A closed cinema with old posters still hanging, corners curled, a doorway where someone had once kissed her and promised things that hadn't happened and didn't need to. Not anymore. She reached a little square with a simple stone fountain. Not one of the famous ones, no tourists, no cameras, just a round basin and water falling in two thin streams from a worn carving. An old woman sat on a bench nearby, wearing a light coat and a scarf tied neatly around her neck. She held a small paper bag and tore off pieces of bread, tossing them gently to the pigeons gathered at her feet. Sophia sat on the edge of the fountain, not too close, and watched the birds shuffle and argue over the crumbs. "You're late tonight," the woman said, without looking up. Sophia hesitated, unsure if the comment was for her. "I haven't been here in a long time," she answered quietly. The woman turned her head slightly, studying her with calm, clear eyes. "Not here," she said, tapping the bench with her fingers. "Here." She tapped her chest. Sophia looked down at the water in the fountain. "I live mostly in screens now," she said. "Emails, video calls, airport gates. I forgot what it feels like to arrive somewhere without a schedule." The woman nodded slowly. "Rome doesn't like schedules," she said. "She likes people who wander." "I think I forgot how to wander," Sophia admitted. "It's like riding a bicycle," the woman replied. "You wobble a little, then you remember. That's why I come out at night. Less noise, more room to wobble." A small smile crept onto Sophia's face. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the water fall into the basin, constant and unhurried. "Will you be here tomorrow?" Sophia asked. "Maybe," the woman said. "Maybe not. But the fountain will. And the pigeons definitely will. They're more reliable than people." Sophia laughed softly. "I'm only here for one night," she said, more to herself than to the woman. "Work, conference, meetings, you know how it is." "I don't," the woman said plainly, "but I know this. One night can be a lot if you let it." Sophia let those words sink in. One night can be a lot. When she finally stood up, the pigeons watched her with mild suspicion, then went back to their bread. The woman lifted her hand in a small wave that contained no promises and no expectations. Sophia walked back through streets that were beginning to empty. Behind some windows, televisions glowed. Behind others, voices rose and fell. Somebody played a piano badly on a distant floor. The city never went silent. It just softened. She reached her square again. The cat on the fountain had disappeared. The wine bar had brought in the last chairs. Only the fountain remained the same, water falling under yellow light. She climbed the stairs to the apartment, unlocked the door, and stepped into the small, warm space. For a while, she didn't turn on any lights. The glow from the street was enough. She sat on the edge of the bed and then lay back slowly, listening. Not to notifications, not to flight alerts, not to the buzz of hotel air conditioning, to Rome, breathing. Outside the window, her phone was still in airplane mode. She thought about turning it back on, about checking messages, catching up, getting ready for tomorrow. Instead, she left it as it was and placed it face down on the bedside table. Maybe tomorrow she would go back to airports and schedules and replies sent as soon as possible. But tonight, she had given herself a different kind of time. Time that didn't ask for anything in return. Time that didn't report itself on a calendar. She could simply rest. In the gentle half-light of the room, she closed her eyes. Rome kept moving outside, quietly, slowly, in circles and echoes and footsteps, as if the city itself were a living thing that refused to stop dreaming, even when everyone else fell asleep. For the first time in a long time, Sophia felt that she didn't need to run after it, and let the night in Rome stay with her a little longer. More Italian bedtime stories coming very soon. If you enjoyed this moment of calm, subscribe and like the video for more gentle storytelling.